Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. For those of you who watch our videos, we appreciate your time. Today we have a very important topic to talk about. We shall be looking into AGOA, which is known as the African Growth and Opportunity Act. This particular trade agreement is under review at the moment, if it will be renewed or not, and why Africans should be paying attention. In this episode, I have a number of videos to play on why the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken has struggled to explain why Africans should continue to buy into the idea of AGOA, the benefits of AGOA, and why the United States of America has looked at Africa to be a strategic partner with regards to trade. The United States of America is paying attention on what the Chinese are doing in the continent of Africa and how China and Russia are engaging the continent of Africa. The European Union as well is making huge strides in the continent of Africa. The African Growth and Opportunity Act is a very important trade relations regarding the United States of America, and we shall be diving into more specifics on how this plays. We shall look at the Rwanda's position. More importantly, dive into South Africa's own interaction regards to AGOA, and we'll be looking at how Uganda has been affected with regards to this particular trade agreement. The United States of America has in several occasions used AGOA as a tool, a political tool, I would say. It has used it to sanction a number of countries of Africa. Those nations too are free to make their own choices. There is a problem that I see here. If you want to do business with these countries, there's not too much, United States have too much leverage in regards to AGOA. It used this particular trade agreement to impose its will and also its own strategic issues in regards to the continent of Africa and manipulating in a way some of these African countries. Not every country in Africa that is a member of AGOA benefits to an extent. Some major economies will do benefit, no doubt. However, for the United States of America to sanction countries who have decided to move away from other political issues that will concern their own people, and as a result of not feeding into the United States strategic interest in the region, I think that is absolutely wrong. That's the reason why some African countries are speaking loud against AGOA in several ways. Africans are open to doing business with the United States of America regards to AGOA's agreement, but if the US uses AGOA as a political tool to question the decision-making and strategic option of those African countries, that's where the problem is. I think that the US should review such policy and also align its strategy. AGOA was created a couple of years ago, looking at 2000 during the Obama administration. However, a lot of change in the world today. The United States needs to review this particular AGOA policy and also see how it sits into the current strategic issues around the world. For those of you who don't know what AGOA is, AGOA provides eligible sub-Saharan African countries with duty-free access to the United States of America's market for over 1,800 products, in addition to the more than 5,000 products that are eligible for duty-free across under the Generalized System of Preference Program. We will close this episode with other very important analysis, and without any more delay, let's roll the clip for Antony Blinken, and we will join you on the other side.
Well, hello everyone, and as always, it is wonderful to be at the U.S. Institute for Peace. I'm grateful to Ambassador Moose, the entire team here at the Institute, for hosting us and for a long-standing partnership with the Department of State, one that we deeply value. To Ambassador Tai, my friend and colleague, Ambassador Muchanga, Flori Leiser, champions of AGOA from across the African continent, including from the private sector and civil society. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do every day to strengthen the economic partnership between the United States and the countries of Africa. For decades, our businesses, American, African, have helped create jobs, uplift communities on both sides of the Atlantic, and build stronger connections between our people. Over the last 2 decades, a key pillar of that partnership has been the African Growth and Opportunity Act. By allowing products from sub-Saharan countries to enter the United States without paying tariffs, AGOA has let entrepreneurs expand to new markets to grow their businesses. It's created tens of thousands of good jobs across our nations, from Portland, Oregon to Port Louis, Mauritius. It's helped companies further diversify and strengthen their supply chains so that consumers can benefit from more affordable, more innovative products. AGOA has also created incentives for governments to develop more stable and transparent business environments that attract more and better direct investment. It's given us a platform for building more just societies, helping reduce poverty, protect our planet, defend the rights of our workers. As we approach the renewal deadline next year, President Biden and our entire government fully support reauthorizing AGOA, and will continue working with our colleagues in Congress to make that happen. We're also focused on modernizing AGOA to reflect how our countries and our economies and international markets have evolved since the law was first passed. We see value in an AGOA that is agile, that's adaptable, that's capable of driving trade forward in a dynamic environment. Whether we're trying to meet the challenges of the climate crisis, prepare for the next pandemic, respond to shifts in global demand, we want AGOA to be ready to support the businesses and the economies of the future.
Supporting African businesses, like the Secretary of State of the United States mentioned there, Mr. Tony Blinken. This hasn't gone well with regards to some African countries. We have a video about an African expert who will explain why this trade agreement benefits specific countries, not the semi-medium-sized enterprises, as the Secretary will point out in terms of business volume and growth. However, Rwanda is one of those countries in the continent of Africa that have been kicked out from AGOA, including Uganda and other countries in the Sahara. More importantly, the president of Rwanda clearly explained why his country was taken out from AGOA. Let's play the clip and we will join you on the other side.
I wanted to clarify the level of hypocrisy and all kinds of stuff we have to deal with. The president mentioned the AGOA. You know, Rwanda was beneficiary of AGOA. Not any longer. We were struck off the list of the beneficiaries. You know the reasons? Simply because we wanted to promote, develop textiles industries here, to make our own garments. And by doing that and encouraging the industries to develop, we said we do not want to have second-hand clothes being dumped here in thousands of tons. Just for saying that, and later on trying to implement that, you know, they forced it upon us. They say, you must accept these second-hand clothes. And we told them no. So they say, okay, we will strike you off AGOA, which they did. We've never been returned on the list, but we never accepted second-hand clothes.
And let me tell you, if anyone's been to these second-hand markets, you'll understand why Africa has become a dumping ground for second-hand clothing, for, I don't even want to call them second-hand cars because they're not even worth being second-hand, and that affects us so badly.
Despite such challenges, the Secretary of State of the United States, Mr. Anthony Blinken, said the United States will continue to do business with the continent of Africa. From my perspective, the stakes are too high, that the U.S. need to engage Africa from their own perspective. The Chinese have invested in Africa unbelievably in different areas: ports, road, bridges, dams, electricity investment, telecommunication, in a whole lot of areas across the continent that has changed the lives of the African people. Mr. Blinken continues saying that we will keep engaging Africa and investing in Africa. Let's play the clip.
The United States will continue investing in Africa because, as President Biden said when he hosted the Africa Leaders Summit, when Africa succeeds, the United States succeeds, and the whole world succeeds as well. Everyone in this room knows well, over the next 30 years, 1 in 4 inhabitants of our planet will be from the African continent. As we look at demographic trends, I think most people would not know the answer to this question, but if you asked 25 years from now, what will be the third most populous country on earth after India and after China? The answer is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Many of us share a common vision for what needs to be a successful partnership between the United States and Africa, including an economic future that's more competitive, that's more resilient, and that's more stable. for all of our people. One where our interdependence is not a sign of weakness to be exploited, but an asset that we can effectively leverage. So, we've been working alongside governments from across sub-Saharan Africa to invest in our joint strengths and to help shape a shared economic future. One way we're doing that is not just by working to create more opportunities for trade with the United States. We want to create better opportunities that benefit businesses in all our countries, that support our workers, and that protect our environment. In all of this, the private sector is the essential partner. We can't deliver for our people on issues that matter most without your talent, without your innovation, without your investment. That's why at the Africa Leaders Summit, we committed to growing our collaboration with the private sector through, but also beyond AGOA. Since then, we've been working very closely together and with our colleagues across the United States government to help close hundreds of new private sector deals between African and American businesses. Altogether, they're worth more than $16 billion. For example, in March, multiple agencies came together to launch the Africa Trade Desk. This is a platform that connects African agricultural producers with more than 20,000 American retailers, like Walmart, like Whole Foods. Already, we've helped conclude a $56 billion agreement to bring South African grapes to the United States while meeting requirements that promote good conditions for workers. All of that said, we know that deals like these are only one part of the equation. You all need to be able to plan ahead to attract capital, to manage risks. We know that means more predictable, more transparent policies, robust infrastructure, safe and stable conditions to grow your businesses, healthy and educated workforces, close and transparent collaboration with governments from the local level all the way up to make sure that the needs of communities and the needs of companies are being met. So we're working with our partners to foster the conditions that enable economic growth and pave the way for investment around the world and across the African continent. Take infrastructure, for example. Over the last 2 years, the United States has committed $82 million toward expanding digital access and improving digital literacy across sub-Saharan Africa. This will open doors to economic opportunity, support entrepreneurship, and help workers and economies compete in the 21st century. We've also contributed $3 billion to expand the Libido corridor, something I saw with my own eyes a few months ago when I visited Angola. This corridor, connecting Angola, Zambia, the DRC, through high-impact investments in ports and bridges, in rail lines and roads, and high-speed internet access, in clean energy and agriculture, all designed to unlock growth in key industries along a major economic thoroughfare. This initiative includes a project that we announced just last week. Our Export-Import Bank approved a $1.6 billion loan to help construct solar energy grids in Angola. Once they're complete, they'll generate power for water supply systems, increasing access to electricity and clean drinking water for businesses and communities across 4 provinces. Of course, trade programs like AGOA are also crucial for creating good environments for business, for breaking down barriers to economic cooperation, for bringing the benefits of trade home to all of our people. And folks here today, and those listening in, know this better than anyone. So, in the months ahead, I'd like to ask one thing. Let us and our partners in sub-Saharan Africa, let us know how we can do more to collaborate, how we can make AGOA even more effective. Together, we'll keep working toward the idea that inspired AGOA so many years ago, ideas that are still at the heart of our vision for the future, to build more equitable, more prosperous, more stable societies with more opportunity for everyone. That's our goal, that's our objective. AGOA is a critical tool for helping us achieve it, and I'm grateful for the support and the work that all of you are doing in that direction. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for being part of this effort.
Despite the fact that AGOA has made some huge contribution in some economies in the continent of Africa, experts have continued to question it. There are some downsides with regards to AGOA. I expected the African Union representative, His Excellency Mr. Albert Muchanga. I expected Mr. Albert Muchanga to explain some downside with regards to the AGOA in the continent of Africa. They never said anything with regards to that particular agreement. However, this is Mr. Muchanga's own perspective, where he encourages U.S. businesses to continue to invest in the continent of Africa, which nothing wrong with that. But let's listen to him and we will join you on the other side.
Thank you very much, Secretary of State, Honorable Anton Blinken. And of course, it's very heartening to see that we have in our midst two cabinet members and a lot of ambassadors and a lot of members of the private sector, which shows very good, very high interest in the partnership that is evolving between Africa and the United States of America. As we meet today, I think, as indicated by my very good friend and sister Flori, Lisa, we are setting the stage for the next phase of investment and the trade partnership between the United States of America and Africa. And as we look to the future in this partnership, we do so against a background of significant developments in Africa's commercial sector. We are meeting when we are 3 years into the start of trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is a major lever for the productive transformation of the African continent. It is opening up investments in many sectors, including the development of regional, continental, and global value chains. As already indicated, we also have the Lobito DRC-Zambia trade corridor, which is opening up inter-country transport, communication, and energy connections, in addition to the development of agriculture and mining. Furthermore, we have complementary platforms to these markets place, some of which have started operating, and I'm going to mention a few of them. In the area of trade information, we have the African Trade Observatory and the Intra-African Trade Fair, both of which are already operating. With respect to the Intra-African Trade Fair, which we started in 2018, this has generated around $118 billion in business-to-business transactions. In the sector of investment and finance, with the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which is facilitating payments in national currencies in intra-African trade, with net settlements in foreign exchange on a daily basis. We also have the African Exchanges Linkages Project. This was rolled out in 2022 and initially connects 7 stock exchanges across 14 African countries. In this way, it is contributing to integrating Africa's capital markets by facilitating cross-border securities trading. And this is the first steps towards the establishment of a Pan-African stock exchange, one of the financial institutions of the African Union. Furthermore, we have the African Virtual Investment Platform, which will be rolled out by the end of this year, with the key tasks of removing investment barriers and consequently de-risking the African investment market. Through the African Development Bank, in which the U.S. is among the shareholders, we have the Investment Forum, which since 2018 has generated close to $180 billion in investment interest. In the sector of quality infrastructure, we have the Made in Africa Guide, and this guide is going to be rolled out in November this year. The Made in Africa Guide will assure innovation, quality, as well as removal of technical barriers to intra-African trade. In the sector of education, we are working on an African continental qualification framework, From a business perspective, we see stronger harmonization of qualification frameworks and skill accreditation programs across Africa as being foundational for labor market integration as we move towards creating a single African market, starting with the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is because comparable qualifications frameworks are key to building blocks for labor market integration. And on the other hand, their absence ushers in non-tariff barriers in the labor sector, which contributes to lower levels of intra-African trade in services, general low productivity, and low levels of economic integration. A key development in the health sector is the establishment of the African Medicines Agency, which will, among others, facilitate regulatory harmonization. This is critical to attracting investments in our pharmaceutical industry, as well as promoting intra-African trade in this sector. In the sector of mining, we have the Africa Green Minerals Strategy. Through it, we will contribute, among others, to the production of green energy at source. With this, Africa is signaling that her people are committed to the green transition, although we are among the least contributors in climate change. In the sector of transport, we have the single African air transport market, which will, once operational, facilitate cost-effective air connectivity, efficiency, price competitiveness, and among others, the development of tourism. In the sector of trade policy, a readiness assessment towards an African customs union or common market has been completed. The results of the study show that it is feasible to move towards this level of deeper economic integration and market consolidation, which is the next step towards a single African market in goods and services. In the sector of global economic governance, the African Union is now a permanent member of the Group of 20. This is the premier forum for international economic cooperation, which aims at achieving stable and sustainable global growth. I'll end the sampling by talking about the collaborative framework for the private sector. We have the African Business Council, which networks with business organizations around the continent, as well as governments, so that they are able to advance proposals on how to improve the business climate across Africa. It is against the background of this sample of market opening and consolidation initiatives that I reiterate my call to American business to invest in the African Continental Free Trade Area marketplace. By so doing, you have duty-free access across Africa, a continent with a population of 1.4 billion people and growing. We must add to this the vast reserves of virgin agricultural land and the natural resources. Investing in the African Continental Free Trade Area also opens up opportunities for U.S. business to export to the U.S. using preferences in AGOA, and in the process contributing to deeper trade and investment ties between Africa and the United States of America. In this respect, as indicated earlier, we also look forward to early and long-term authorization of AGOA. I will at this stage request you to include in your outcome document a list of measures that you would like to see the African policymakers to work on to enable you to see Africa as a more attractive investment destination.
Despite Mr. Muchanga's own perspective and the Secretary of State of the United States, Mr. Antony Blinken, saying that AGOA has made huge contribution in the continent of Africa, which is currently still under review. It will be renewed again for the next 10 or 16 years, and other experts are saying. However, it's important to see things from the South African perspective. We all remember how the United States of America threatened the country of South Africa in a number of areas with regards to relations with Russia. A lot of lawmakers in the United States have called on the US government to question or sanction South Africa for a number of reasons. That Russia and South Africa have bilateral relations. This is where the problem lies, that the United States is using AGOA to an extent as a political tool in several areas. However, the South Africans don't see this from a different angle. South Africa does benefit enormously from AGOA. Let's play the clip and we will join you on the other side as the South African expert looks at the details with regards to AGOA, with regards to the continent of Africa in general, more specifically in South Africa's own beneficial aspect.
All right, for now, let's move on to this discussion now. The Trade, Industry and Competition Minister, Afcfta, says there is no clear commitment about the renewal of the AGOA agreement. Now, the minister was in the US for the 21st AGOA Forum to push for the tariff-free trade agreement to be renewed. South Africa remains the biggest AGOA trade partner in Africa. Let's unpack all of these issues now. Joining us is Tina Nodada. He is a director at Waymaker Trade Solutions. Tina, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on.
Great to be here again, Michelle.
So we're 10 years in now. Well, we will be 10 years in next year, 2015 to 2025. Yeah. How concerned are you that AGOA is at risk for South Africa?
No, Michelle, I'm not too concerned about it. AGOA is a trade agreement that we have, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, that really functions a bit differently to other trade agreements where the US kind of yields a lot of power and is able to add and remove other countries from there. So it's African countries with the United States. And one of the key things that the United States wants to look at is the democratic principles, how the countries run. Are they running it in the ways of the US principles? So in looking at that, what they see is if, for example, they see that there's a threat to security or US security. So there may have been, if you think back to the time when Russia and Ukraine had their war, the war started, there was a vessel that was parked in Simonstown, which was assumed to be a Russian war vessel, and that was a threat to AGOA.
And there were very strong words from the US ambassador.
Yes, directly. And that is when the US gets offended or has problems with a specific country. That's what can result in a country being removed from AGOA. Currently, there's nothing that is happening in South Africa that gives the US any fear or feeling that their security or anything is under South Africa is not following the principles that the US abides by.
But we are differing ideologically and substantially on serious matters, including our relationship with Russia and our stance on the Israel-Palestine war.
Yeah, look, we are differing on those. And if that, I would just say the differences and the magnitude of the differences between us and the US have not reached a level where it would threaten AGOA. We haven't seen negotiations around that. Afcfta was in the US recently, and he sat down and the AGOA forum took place. It has not been renewed, but that's not just for South Africa, that's for all member states. And quite confidently, I think the reason why is because we're still waiting for the elections. The US are busy with elections right now. It's not an area of major concern. But if you're looking at it from a trade perspective, South Africa still is a key African partner for the United States. Africa Growth Opportunity Act is a big thing for South Africa, with the United States being the second biggest trade partner for South Africa from an import and from an export perspective. So it's something to protect, but currently standing, there isn't anything that has threatened us to a point where we were removed from AGOA.
Uganda was also recently removed from AGOA as a result of the country's own national law. If you remember, over the past couple of months, Rwanda passed a law of regards to banning LGBTQ rights in the country, where the law came to the president's desk and was sent to the parliament. There was a little bit of back and forth there in the country of that East African country. This has also gone a long way to let the US come in. And for that reason, the United States kicked out Uganda from the AGOA. And this is how it played out with regards to Uganda situation. The Ugandan people are not bothered with regards to how the US perceived that. According to the words of the Ugandan president, Yoweri Museveni, who said that the US thinks that without AGOA, Uganda cannot move forward, or African countries. Let's play this video and we will close this episode in a moment.
Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has downplayed his country's expulsion from the United States tariff-free trade program. Speaking on Sunday, he said Ugandans should not be over-concerned by Washington's decision to move the country off its list of African Growth and Opportunity Act beneficiaries. He said some foreign actors erroneously believed that African countries cannot move forward without their support, and adding that Uganda had the capacity to achieve its growth and transformation targets without this assistance. Last week, US President Joe Biden said he was cutting Uganda, Central African Republic, Gabon and Niger from the program from January. He said Uganda was excluded because of what he described as its gross violations of internationally recognized human rights. In May, Kampala passed one of the world's toughest anti-LGBTQ laws. Launched in 2000, AGOA gives exports from qualifying countries duty-free access to the US market. It's set to expire in September 2025, but discussions are already underway about whether it should be extended and for how long. In 2022, Uganda exported goods worth $10.5 million under AGOA.
We want to thank you for watching. Let us know what you think with regards to the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Tell us if your country is a member of this particular organization and what are the benefits you do see and how this is going to clash with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is currently in the implementation phase. Leave us a comment, like the video, share with your different network. We are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.